welcome to our Morning Throners podcast.
I'm Nelson.
I'm Jeff.
I'm Glow.
And I'm Kyle.
We're the fucking Morning Throners.
And welcome back to another episode of your Morning Throners, your favorite Game of Thrones podcast. We are here talking Tyrion 4.
I think.
It's 4.
I'm going to take the
four.
pause
It's 4.
as a correct.
Yep, you're right.
As
Shit,
a yes.
Really fun chapter. You know, I think we all kind of like Tyrion. I'm not sure how Kyle feels about him. Just a kind of cool character. But getting right into it, Kyle, what was your thoughts?
Excited. I'm excited because this is one of the first times that one of the things that we've talked a lot about in spoilers, in the spoiler sections leading up to this, is finally revealed, and we get to see what Kyle thinks about it.
I'm not sure what
Yes.
that is yet, but
Ooh, let's find out.
All right, we'll find out. So, jumping in, where does it start? Kyle, lead us off.
well, they're eating horse, man.
Well, they're eating
That's what
horse,
it
but
starts-
where are they?
Well, they're on the East Road.
They're on the
right?
Eastern
The-
Road.
Is that what is that one called? The God's
The
Road?
High
No.
Road or the
The
East
high
Road.
road. It's the high road, yeah.
And they talk about it a little bit later, but that's where we find out that's where they're at. They're not on the way to Winterfell, as Catelyn
Yeah.
said.
Brilliant.
Tyrion, and we get again, like I said, we'll get to it in a sec. Tyrion's pissed that he was outwitted by Cat, but
Yeah, she played him.
she and
Played
it's-
him like
it's
a fiddle.
fucking. She played Kyle like a fiddle too. Kyle had no idea. But it's weird
Yeah,
because when
Kyle did say Winterfell.
we do get like a short flat, it was weird because when we listened to the Cat, when we did recorded the Cat chapter, and there was a part where Kyle said something like, "Oh yeah, Cat's gonna take him to King's Landing," and we were like, "Wait, King's Landing?" And you were like, "Oh, I mean Winterfell. I mean Winterfell." You just like mixed them up. But in the spoiler section, Jeff was like, I remember Jeff said like, "Oh yeah," when he said King's Landing, I thought for a second that he actually thought that she was lying about where she was taking him and that he was onto something. But nah, Kyle's just dumb.
I don't.
I don't
have
think
a
I said
response.
you're dumb.
I
don't
might have said that.
He embellished a little bit. Yes.
All right, so Glow.
So it starts out with the guy Chiggin chopping up a little bit of a horse action, and it turns out to be Tyrion's horse.
Well-bred
I
horse.
guess well-bred horse. I guess he keeled over and died from exhaustion. It sounds like later on in the chapter. He's basically talking to Chiggin and Bronn. Tyrion's basically bitching that it's his horse. He doesn't want to eat it. Blah 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 blah. Talks about being Dothraki, or Bronn says Dothraki eat horse. He's like, do I look like a Dothraki dude?
Well, it's Tyrion's horse. I don't know if you guys. I took my headset off.
I did say that. Yeah.
It's Tyrion's fucking horse, and he says where he
Jamie
got it.
got it. Jamie got
Yeah,
it for him
Jamie
for his
got it.
23rd
Birthday.
name,
Gave it to him.
23rd name day.
But so
Yeah.
in my notes though, I only have that Tyrion's 24, and
Alright,
that
so
might be
it's
an
got it.
estimate, but like it's like a fucking. He's only
New
had it for a
horse.
year or two.
Young
It's like,
horse.
all right, come on, get over it.
I didn't know how old Tyrion was when I was reading it. I was thinking 32.
No,
And I
he's
was like,
he's way
"Yeah,
younger.
He's had this horse for a fucking while.
You're
Yeah.
not gonna get over the horse. Like if it was a brand new car, it's not like, oh fuck it, the car blew up. Fuck it.
Well, I'm thinking more of a dog, like a pet.
You're gonna
right?
get over a dog in a year.
No,
You're
no,
gonna
I'm
be-
saying that's what I'm saying.
I think the best part about this chapter is at the start of it, we don't know that Tyrion was outwitted. Like Tyrion thinks he's still winning at the beginning of this chapter.
Yeah,
And
he's
Well,
going
he doesn't
through-
think that, but we think that as readers.
No, Tyrion does as well.
No, so he already knew where he was at the very beginning,
Oh,
and then he goes into
okay.
like this
Yeah,
story
but we
about
don't.
the beginning.
Yeah, but we
yeah,
don't know.
yeah, you're right. We don't.
I think it's really cool that like he's like, oh, someone's got to be riding up from here. I told them all like how much money I'll pay them if they save me. Like it's gonna be dope when they come and just like kill Catelyn Stark and I'm saved and nothing actually happens. And then
Well, yeah, he says that in the flashback part.
I just thought it was really cool that when Tyrion talks about like as he's like in the inn and he's like, oh, I'm setting these motherfuckers up. Like there's gonna be people riding
He's
for me.
smirking to himself.
Yeah, so,
and all
so that's
that
the next
shit.
part. The next part is that flashback. So let's go over it. It kind of gives us a little bit more of what happens in that inn. And something I didn't realize is, but like he points out is, like not nearly as many people like joined on Cat's side as we thought.
12
Like,
out of 50.
and in the
a
last,
dozen.
Yeah.
even in the last one, I remember we said,
Yeah, you guys were talking about everybody.
and I remember this a lot. I remember it better than you guys probably just because I have to go through. I re-listened to it when I
Well, she
edited it.
called out a lot more people that actually.
Well, we were
raise their
saying
swords.
it was smart of her to go and like call out the small groups first, right? Be like, hey, you, that one guy, aren't you sworn to my father? Hey, you, those 4 guys, aren't you sworn? And then she like ends up going to like the 12 phrase and say, "Hey, aren't you sworn to my father?" We find out the phrase don't join.
Yeah, we turned out that the Freys are just
2 of them stood up and then they sat back down.
Yeah.
because the head guy didn't do a thing.
Yeah.
Because they're pussies.
So what are some of the things about that initial confrontation that makes Tyrion feel a little probably extra confident than he should have, more confident than he should have been?
A lot of sellswords in there, and people that are not that rich, you know.
Well, people, yeah, the
People that will take the reward.
There weren't many people that joined her side. So the total amount of people that joined her side in the inn, I don't. It's hard to tell who joined her side.
There's
in the
like
inn versus
3
who signed up
Brackens,
to
2
come.
sellswords.
2 sellswords, a guy from Harrenhal, 3 Brackens, and then a couple full field hands who didn't know they were getting into,
And
as
Marillion.
Tyrion says, and then the singer, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like not that many, but he realizes that all he has is this guy. How do you guys say? Do you remember the 2 guys who work for Tyrion?
Jerk or
JYCK.
It's
Jack.
like Jack.
I think it's Jack. Yeah, I would say Jack. I feel like George just does the same thing that they do in Leonard Skinner, where they just replace all the vowels with Y's, but they don't change the way it's spelled or the way
Jack?
it's pronounced. Jack is what I would say. Jick and Morik.
I read it as
Jick-
Jick.
He says Jick is the one that knows. Jack is the one that knows how to fight. And he says Morik is his servant, but he's more of like he's the guy who makes the fires and grooms the horses. He doesn't fucking fight. So he really has one fighter. So Tyrion's like, even doesn't matter who was on my side. I didn't have anything to do. And Yoren, doesn't matter if Yoren likes me. It seems like Yoren and Tyrion are like pretty good friends because Tyrion's funny
Yeah.
and joke around. But it doesn't matter. He's literally sworn to do nothing, like not take part.
He's
as
not
part of the
not
Night's
allowed.
Watch.
Yeah.
He felt good about him spreading the word though down south.
Yeah, so the one thing he feels good about the fact that he says like, oh, Tywin, my father will pay a handsome reward for anyone who brings word of what happened here to him.
Well, that's
Even
what I
though
was gonna
he
say.
thinks to himself that's bullshit.
The other, well,
yeah,
no.
but he was like, yeah, I can pay him back though.
No, he was saying though, like, he won't care about Tyrion being taken, but he does care about the Lannister name getting sullied.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we said. That and it's cool that Kyle called that out last time. Like in the cat chapter, we said like it seems like not many people in the family like Tyrion, and Kyle, you even said like it's a thing of pride though. Like you can't just let somebody in your family get kidnapped, which
Yeah.
is exactly what Tyrion says here. Like, yeah, maybe nobody likes me, but it just looks bad for our family if they let this happen. So, like Jeff's saying, like, yeah, Tyrion's feeling pretty good about this. He thinks that he thinks that within a day, people will be out looking for him. And even though Roderick Castle tells everyone in the inn, like, oh, keep quiet, he's pretty sure that the guy who, he's like, when he comes in the inn, he's like, there's no rooms available, right? And he's like, oh, maybe somebody can fix that. And he's like flipping a gold coin. He's pretty sure that whoever that dude is, he's money hungry.
He can be bought.
He's like, yeah, that guy will go to my dad immediately. He's like, also the Freys join in, and I know Lord Walder, who's old as fuck, and he only got this old by
Picking the right side, picking the winning side always.
Yeah.
And we find again, we heard about that before that he
That was the
shows
dude
up.
that showed up late.
He shows up late, and they call him the late Lord Frey.
He's a
and he's
fair
like,
weather fan.
He's
you
like,
know?
yeah, exactly.
Kind of like Glow.
Bandwagon.
off.
He's a bandwagon guy.
No way! 100% no way.
So Kat says like I'll pay anybody who helps me take this guy to Winterfell, and a couple people step up, and that's who we talked about earlier. Kyle, what happens when they immediately take what have at very first? Like, what's his condition? What's his like?
Well, they tied him up and they put a hood on him so he couldn't move or see where he's going. He's obviously stripped of all his weapons.
And I don't know if he's a bitch or not, but like he gets like incredibly sore immediately. It might be again. I'm the opposite of a dwarf, so maybe like riding on a horse as a dwarf is uncomfortable. But
I feel like he
think-
complains
I
about
think it
his
probably
legs
is.
being cramped.
he complains about his
all
legs
the
being
time.
cramped
I
like
think
every
his legs
chapter.
are just always
Like,
cramped,
man,
dude.
I walked 5 yards, man. My legs already started cramping.
Well, they're probably not. And this is an assumption, I guess, and I don't know enough about dwarfism to know, but they're probably not formed like the same as yours and mine.
I agree with you, but I think one of the
Yeah, and traveling as far as they have,
Yeah,
like
I mean,
sitting on a horse,
I
whether
feel
you're
like-
sitting on
I
a horse
feel
or
like
walking,
at
it's
some
going to start
point-
hurting.
I feel like at some point, just like if you run, and maybe I don't know, I've never ridden a horse 10 feet, let alone 3 days, but your legs are gonna become a little numb. Like you're gonna forget about the pain. No,
So at the same time, it's going to hurt. Like
We've all
imagine
run-
running for 3 days.
we've all run a long time, and at some point, those shins and your little ankle, like it starts to
They
numb
don't
down.
become numb. They hurt more, dude. I don't know what you're talking
No,
about.
Kyle knows. Kyle knows. You get to that point.
You can run through it, but it still sucks. You run
And it's
through
not
it,
like
but
they
it
have
still sucks.
adrenaline flowing either, dude. They're just fucking riding.
Yeah.
And like all you can think about is the pain in your legs.
Agreed,
Here's the
just
problem.
sitting there.
Here's the
Agree to
problem I have
disagree.
with this: the fact that Tyrion complains about his legs all the time, and I think it's one of the biggest inconsistencies. Kyle always likes to point out the George R. R. Martin inconsistencies, but this is one that George R. R. Martin himself says he wish he never did. Do you guys remember the first John chapter?
He does a backflip. He does a
Yeah.
backflip
He
off
does
a
a
wall.
backflip off the fucking roof, dude. And
Yeah.
now he's complaining about
Yeah.
riding a horse. Like, and George R. R. Martin says like he wishes he never had him do that backflip because he like Tyrion never really does anything like acrobatic like that ever again.
Yeah.
So he's like,
He also runs around like a madman in this fight scene and kills like 6 people. It kills more
he's-
people than Glow.
I
in
don't know. He's
Warzone.
kind of hiding. He's kind of hiding a lot, but we'll get to that in a minute. So we got everybody who comes with them. The singer comes with them, and then this is when it cuts back after the flashback to Tyrion realizing that Catelyn bamboozled him, and he's pissed. He says he's more pissed that he was outwitted by Catelyn than he is about the capture in general. He's like, God gave me one gift, and it's like my wits, and this fucking bitch, this she-wolf bitch, outwitted me.
She owned him. Yeah. He had no idea.
So, but his situation improves dramatically after like 2 days.
Well, yeah,
Because
they
of the
needed-
harsh conditions, partly because they're not afraid
Yeah,
that
they're
like,
like,
you can't
yeah,
run
he's not
off
gonna
by
run
yourself.
away.
oh yeah, it's a little more security.
So we find out one of the dangers in this chapter, but there's like 2 main ones: the
Shadowcats.
the Shadow
Yeah,
Cats and the
Shadow
Mountain
Ca-
Clans.
Are they like panthers? I just gotta ask.
I think they're
what
like
the
a
fuck's
mountain
sh-
lion. They gotta be like a
Mountain lion,
mountain lion.
Yeah, but it's a shadow
might be
cat. It's gotta be
black.
black.
Yeah.
It's gotta be black. That's sick.
Black
it's
mountain
panther.
lion.
Well,
That'd be sweet.
later one of the guys shows up in a shadow skin cloak, which I assume is
Black.
well,
Black
no,
with
no.
white
I
stripes.
assume it's a
It
mountain.
says black.
Black with stripes, yeah. So it's like a striped cloak, right? But I assume
Well, it
I'm
has
saying a
2
shadow
white stripes
skin.
or something.
I'm saying a shadow skin cloak is from a shadow cat.
Probably, yes.
Probably, yeah. So mostly black because we find out that cloak is black with white stripes, right? That's what they say.
Yeah.
Okay. So immediately once he finds out on the high road, he knows where the end destination is.
Correct.
Yeah, well, it's
It only goes one way.
Yeah,
It's
and
a
that's
fucking mountain.
Where's he going?
Guess we're going to the Vale here.
Erie.
So the quick just clarification: the Vale is like saying the north, or saying the south, or saying the west. The Vale is like the country almost, and the Erie, like Kyle said, is the castle. So yeah, his end destination is the Erie. He might already be in the Vale technically. Depends on how far they've gone, if they've actually left the Riverlands or not. But yeah, the Erie is the castle. The Vale is the country, the area. They're going to Erie. Who are they going to see? Tyrion is not excited about it because he has a little bit of experience with this person in the past.
John Aaron's wife.
John Aaron's
What's her
wife,
name?
Catelyn's sister, Lysa Aaron.
Yeah, Lysa.
Yeah.
Lysa Aaron,
Who's a psycho?
formerly Lysa Tully.
We don't know that yet, Jeff, so it's a little bit of a spoiler, but yeah, she's kind of psycho. And we find out that Tyrion maybe doesn't know.
I feel like
a
we
ton
figure
about
out
her.
she's a psycho like a minute into meeting her. So
We do.
I'm
It's not a huge
I'm like,
spoiler. And Tyrion even here says, like, I know her a little bit. I only knew her a little bit at King's Landing, and I already know I'm not excited about this meeting. But what we know of Lysa, we know, like, people, like Ned keeps saying, I wish Lysa was here so that I could ask her questions. But the one, like, actual interaction we had with Lysa was early in the book in, like, one of the Cat or Ned chapters, right? She sends them a letter.
Yeah.
What's in that
Okay.
letter?
Well, that John was murdered.
By?
Was it the Lannisters?
Yeah, so we know she's not a fan of the Lannisters already. So
Yeah.
even if Tyrion doesn't know this, we know as readers that he's like, this isn't the best person he could be going to
Yeah.
see right now. So yeah, just a couple. I'll do a couple name drops real quick, just because I wrote these down in my notes. Mohor, and some of these guys don't even survive the end of the chapter. Mohor, Kurleket.
I was reading that earlier. Kurleket. Yeah,
Kurleket.
Kurleket.
Mohor, Kurleket, and Larys. I think it's just like he's replacing vowels with Wise. I think it's Larry. I think it's pronounced kind of like Larry. Larry's maybe. They're the Bracken men. And then Sir Willis Woad is a hedge knight, but he's sworn to
The Wentz.
the Wentz at Harrenhal. So, do you know what hedge knight means, Kyle?
Not really.
Jeff, go ahead, because that's
A hedge knight is someone who isn't loyal to any like one person, so they kind of go around to where they're needed.
Okay.
They'll be like, "Hey, do you need a knight in your service? I'll be that guy for however long," and then they'll go on to the next person.
yeah. So the one big quote about
Knight for knight's sake.
yeah. So
kinda
in
thing.
the prequel books are called, the first one is called a hedge knight.
Yeah, I did know that.
They all follow a hedge knight. And the one quote that keeps saying in that book is that guy's master taught him that he says a hedge knight is the truest kind of knight. We're not sworn to a lord who like could command us to do bad things. Like if a lord commands us to do something that we disagree with, we can say, "Hey man, nothing against you, but I feel like that's breaking my honor. That's breaking my code as a knight.
It's outside my thing. Yeah.
I'm gone. I'll go serve to somebody else." So they kind of go from castle to castle, serve, and once they pledge themselves to somebody, their honor demands that they're loyal to them
Yeah.
until their service is done. But yeah, that's what a hedge knight is. So he's not really like a sworn person, like super devoted to that house, but for now, that's where he's at. And Tyrion says that the reason he's remembering all these names is because he wants to make sure he can pay these people back for what they're doing to him, and he says a Lannister always pays his debts.
But not in a good way. Not in a
Yeah.
This one
monetary
is not
way.
in a good way.
Yeah, but seriously, I'm gonna say here, are they treating him that bad as a fucking prisoner?
Well, I think he's just pissed that in general they like agreed to help kidnap him for something that he doesn't think like he's like arguing against.
Yeah, they're all.
Yeah, but at the
They're
same
all
time,
part
you
of
got
it.
this high lord lady saying all this accusation
They're
shit.
still
Hey,
all
I'm
part
gonna
of
get
it.
Yeah,
That's
but
his
they're
opinion.
trying to get payday. He should understand that.
Yep,
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, but also when only
At his
12 out of
expense.
50 people in an inn like are jumping to the occasion, that means that
Yeah,
what
but
38
that's only
people
that
aren't.
are.
38
If I get
people aren't.
kidnapped,
Those
I'm
38
taking
people
names
probably
for
don't have
sure.
any houses or anything to deal with.
So what's happening here when Tyrion's thinking about this is Willis Woad, who's the guy from the hedge knight who's sworn to Harrenhal at the time, says we need to sleep. Like Catelyn has been riding them. We don't know how long, but Tyrion says long days. It's been at least 2 days, probably more than that, because he says 2 days
It's
until
rough.
they unbound his hands and took the hood off, and then he says long days after that. They're really
And we
not
don't really know if it's
resting
been 2
much.
days or not.
Yeah, so the timeline, I'll check the timeline that I have. They put a date to this, and again, the date is based off the fact that Tyrion says long days, but it has it taking place about a week after the Catelyn chapter. So this technically still a day or two before the tournament even starts, which I guess doesn't really matter because it's kind of separated, but just to put it in perspective, is when this is estimated to have happened. And basically, Willis Woad's like, dude, we need to sleep. We've been going crazy. And the fact that they're butchering these horses, they're not butchering the horses because they're out of food. Well, they might be low on food, but they're butchering the horses because the horses are fucking dying.
They're just dying.
Because they're riding too
Exhaustion.
hard.
It's too much.
So they're saying, like, as these horses die, we're putting more and more weight, like whatever they're carrying is getting put on more horses. Like we're gonna lose horses faster if we don't take a break. So they take a break and they hunker down. And Tyrion and somebody says like we can't afford to do that because the Lannisters are after us. And Tyrion's like, don't worry about that. And someone's like, oh fucking, you want me to cut his tongue out if he keeps talking? And Cat's like, no, let him speak. So Tyrion says, by now our pursuit is likely racing across the neck, chasing your lie up the King's Road, assuming there was a pursuit, which by no means is certain. Oh, no doubt word has reached my father, but my father does not love me overmuch, and I am not at all sure that he will bother to bestir himself. It was only half a lie. Lord Tywin Lannister cared not a fig for his deformed son, but he tolerated no slights on the honor of his house, which is what Kyle was saying earlier. So Tyrion says, this is a cruel land, Lady Stark. You'll find no succor until you reach the Vale. And each mount you lose burdens the others all the more. Worse, you risk losing me. I am small and not strong, and if I die, then what's the point? That was no lie at all. Tyrion did not know how much longer he could endure this pace. And then they argue a little more, and Catelyn says,
I mean, this is where it's crazy. Like, Tyrion, you're really gonna die from fucking riding?
I think he's being a little dramatic.
Like, come on.
Well, it's
Right.
probably pretty fucking rough too, though.
I mean,
like,
but a week of hard riding, no
you guys
sleep.
think like this is easy,
Yeah,
but they're
I
going
have no
through the
idea.
mountains.
I can't.
If he
speak
was
of how it
walking
is.
every step of the way, I'd be like, okay.
No,
You
even
guess?
then, like you can be as sore as possible, and like as long as you're getting fed and you have water, you're not gonna fucking die, right? Like it can suck.
I think you're wrong.
He's
People die
riding.
hiking
He's
and-
sitting
and
on
shit all the
something.
time.
I don't
know.
think-
People die in the woods all the time.
I think as long as you have food and you're intaking as many calories as you're expending,
From
you're not gonna fucking
hypothermia
die.
and starvation,
Yeah, exactly.
not from
Yeah,
horseback
Um,
riding.
through the mountains, aren't they? Isn't it cold?
Well, it's probably a little cold, but
It's
he doesn't
rough.
seem to
He just
be
came
like
from
freezing to
he
death.
just came from the wall.
But then Catelyn
he's-
says, your death is the point, Lannister. And Tyrion
Yeah.
says, I don't think so. If you wanted me dead, all you would have had to do is say the word, and one of your staunch friends would have gladly given me a red smile. And she said, Starks don't kill men in their beds. And Tyrion's like, I don't fucking either. Like, I had nothing to do with this. Let me go. Like, why do you think this is me?
He's like, oh, are you fucking kidding me? This is exactly the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, so she's like, well, the assassin was armed with your dagger. And Tyrion's like, it's not my fucking dagger. He's
What
like,
dagger?
what kind of fucking idiot would arm an assassin with his own dagger? And Catelyn, like, for a second, he sees, like, the flash of doubt go across her face. So she says,
I mean,
would-
it should. Who puts their own fingerprints at a crime scene? Like, here you go.
that's a great point that Tyrion makes right there, right?
Yeah.
He literally says only a fool would arm an assassin with his own dagger, which I think is important, right? Because
And he said like a cheap assassin too. I forget what his adjective was.
Well, he's like a commoner.
Yeah, it was like some like low pad foot or something he said.
so the next part is Catelyn says, "Why would Peter lie to me?" And Tyrion says, "Why does a bear shit in the woods?" It's like, because it's his nature. Lying
It's
comes as
fucking
easily
him.
as breathing to a man like Littlefinger. You ought to know that of all people. She took a step toward him, her face tight. And
Oh,
what does
this
that
is
mean,
great.
Lannister? Tyrion
This is
crooked his head.
great.
Why, every man at court has heard him tell how he took your maidenhead, my lady. That is a lie, Catelyn Stark said. Which is kind of the point Tyrion's making. Like, lying comes easily
Yeah,
to him.
that's why he said it.
Yeah.
And then didn't he even say that afterwards?
So then the other guy, like, grabs his
I don't
head.
understand why like people are attacking him then. Yeah, he's saying Littlefinger said this. Why is he getting attacked for it? It's like,
Well, I mean, you're talking to a high lady in front of a bunch of people who are sworn to her, and you're kind of talking pretty crass, right? You're talking about her fucking virginity in front of a bunch of people.
yeah, that's true.
So-
but still, at the same time, it's like, yo,
Krulekit grabs his hair and, like, pulls it back and, like, puts a knife to his throat and is like, you want me to bleed him? I'll fucking kill him right here. And Kat's like, no, hold on. And she says, Peter Baelish loved me once. He was only a boy. His passion was a tragedy for us all, but it was real and pure, and nothing to be made mock of. He wanted my hand. That is the truth of the matter. You are truly an evil man, Lannister. And he says, you are truly a fool, Lady Stark. Littlefinger has never loved anyone but Littlefinger. And I promise you that it is not your hand he boasts of. It's those ripe breasts of yours and that sweet mouth and the heat between your legs. That is where it's probably crossing the line a little bit. Like, he
Yeah,
already made his
100%.
point.
100%. That's where it's like, all right, yeah, cut his tongue out. But before that, it was like,
He's like, I'm just making a point. Littlefinger's a liar. But now he's like, come on.
I was rubbing it in a little
he's
bit.
being a little dickhead.
Yeah,
So
so
whatever.
So
Wait, Kyle, what do you think about Peter's accusation? Do you think he did it?
Do I think Peter did what?
Took Catelyn's maidenhood.
No.
Straight lie.
Yeah.
So this is actually when he puts the knife to his throat, and Tyrion says, well, if you kill me, the truth dies with me. Right? And he says, let me ask you this. How did Littlefinger say, I got the dagger? Kyle?
Well, it was the unhorsed by a Knight of the Flowers. That was his story, no?
It was that Tyrion lost a bet that he bet on the Knight of the Flowers.
Jaime.
No, he bet on the Knight of the Flowers, and Jaime won.
And then it gets
Oh,
cut
yeah,
off.
yeah, yeah.
He lost betting against Jaime. So this is the
Yes.
thing that we've talked a lot about in the spoiler sections up until now. Because how many times have I mentioned this? How many times have they mentioned this joust in the story up till now? Like, at least 5, right? This one bet.
Oh, like,
Yeah.
And in the
They
last
do
chapter,
mention
in
a
the
lot.
last Ned chapter, when Jaime loses, what does Renly say? Do you remember?
I do.
Renly and Littlefinger were betting. Kyle, do you remember?
No.
Littlefinger had bet like 100
I
dragons.
just said
No,
on-
I
remember.
remembered.
I remember him yelling at Sansa. Not yelling at her, but like, if you know who's gonna win the next one, tell me.
That was Littlefinger's.
That was
Yeah,
Littlefinger's.
Renly
Renly
was
says-
like,
that's what I'm saying. Is I don't remember what Renly said afterwards.
I wish
That's the only
Tyrion
quote
was here. I would have won
Oh
double.
yeah, twice. Yeah.
because Jaime lost.
Yeah.
So Renly's point there is, I know Tyrion always bets on Jaime.
Oh yeah.
But like
exactly.
5 times before this, we've heard that Tyrion lost a bet betting against Jaime. So that like technically like when
No,
Renly
if he bet against Jaime, he would have won the bet.
no.
He did win the bet. That's what he
That's
said.
the
That's
point.
what
Oh, and
Littlefinger's
he- and
story
he-
is that
okay,
Tyrion
yeah,
won the
he-
bet and got
Yeah,
burned.
Littlefinger's
No, that
story
confuses
is
the hell
that
to me too, Jeff.
Yeah.
But like this is something that I don't think you would have caught on to until last chapter. So it's not like you missed anything. But like 5 times they did say they have mentioned this joust where Tyrion bet against Jaime. And then in the last chapter, Renly says, "Oh, if Tyrion was here, I definitely would have won." So like if you're really reading between the lines, you would have realized, wait, Renly thinks that he would have bet on Jaime, but everyone says that he lost his bet betting against Jaime.
See, that part kind of confused me, and I guess I probably didn't say anything about it, but I would have thought that it was strange that he would bet
Are you
against-
saying last chapter when you read it, it confused
No,
you?
no. I'm saying this whole Littlefinger bet thing it
Yeah,
confused me right here, but it just when hearing about it sounds like something that makes sense and fits with pretty much Tyrion as a person and the Lannisters in general.
So it's
Like,
what's weird about
We
the
just
lie.
talked about that at the beginning of this, actually. That like why would the Lannisters bet on their own? They care very much about their name.
Well, I think it's
Yeah.
more not
Yeah.
even about that. It's more that we heard this in one of the earlier Tyrion chapters. Like the only person that has ever been nice to Tyrion is Jaime, and I think that's probably why he bets on Jaime in all the times. But he says, "I never bet against
don't
my
think so.
family."
And Jamie
Yeah.
also bought him a horse and like a nice horse
Yeah,
that he
yeah.
liked and all that.
And I'm not saying it's
Yeah.
Like you're seeing more and more reason that he likes Jamie.
yeah, and I don't think like this is something you should have picked up on, Kyle. Like maybe because we were
Yeah.
I was like intentionally bringing up I tried to bring up this joust every time they talked about it just to see if I could plant the seed and you could find it out a chapter or two early. Because I didn't realize that we found out the actual answer like a chapter after Renly says that. But it is weird that like if Renly knows this, that Tyrion always bets on the Lannisters. You have to assume other people know this, especially somebody as smart as Littlefinger. So isn't it a stupid lie? Like, couldn't you have picked any
Yeah.
other bet a bet that doesn't involve Jaime that makes it less obvious that he's lying? Like, maybe he's lying to Catelyn, so who cares? Catelyn probably doesn't know Tyrion's betting habits, but a ton of people probably know Tyrion's betting habits.
One, and it sounds like a lot of people like he uses the story a lot, right? Or did she mention that to Tyrion before? Because
No, this is the first time. He's like, "How did Littlefinger say I got the dagger?"
but he said
That's kind of
but
weird
then
to
he
say
knew, right?
how.
Well, he says you won it
He
in
knew
a
the
bet.
story though.
He says you won it in a bet. He's like, what, betting in the game? It is weird that he calls her out for saying like what he says I
Like
won
this
it in a
sounds
bet.
like something he's told or some lie he's used before. Or
Well,
some
I bet
story
you-
he's used before.
I bet it's because Tyrion probably did make a bet in that. Like I bet you he bet against Littlefinger in that, maybe for Littlefinger's dagger or something, right? But I bet you he lost instead of won. Like I bet you the bet happened as it said, but he just didn't lose it.
Tyrion.
That's the only
might have-
reason I can
dog.
think that
I-
Tyrion would
I
bring
don't
this up.
I don't know, man. That sounds to me. It sounds like he's told this story, or this is some cover story he's used in the past.
I would have to agree with Kyle on this one. All right, so as they're going, or as
As they're talking, they're standing around
yeah,
talking
as
and
Tyrion's
resting.
talking to Catelyn, she's like, "All right," or Tyrion's like, "All right, well, how did he say I came upon this dagger?
We're
We
still
just went
talking
through
about
all
I
this.
want it on you."
We just went through all
debt.
that.
Yeah, I want it on debt. Oh shit! Now people are showing up.
Yeah, immediately Lahary's or Larry or whatever his name is yells riders, and Tyrion like listens and Roderick listens and Tyrion thinks that by the sound there's at least a dozen people. And shortly after, like Larry shuts out, or when Larry's comes down the hill, he says like, "Oh, there's 20, 25 people." and seems like they're all on horseback. Not like we know that everyone here doesn't have horses. They only say 4 people mount up, right? Like, who mounts up? It's Roderick, Sir Willis, Braun, and
Jake?
Chicken.
No,
But I feel like there's
Jake
more
rides out
horses
there
in that, though.
bareback.
No, that's later.
Oh.
He starts
But
off
I've-
like because he doesn't have a horse either. What's up, Kyle?
Yeah, I just think they all didn't get on horses. I think most of them have horses.
Yeah, because Jack must have had a horse because Tyrion says he ends up taking that after the fight's over.
That's what I was gonna say, and they were saying that afterwards he said something like there was no shortage on horses any longer.
Well, I think it's
Well,
because
they
they
took all
killed
the
9
Shadow
people.
Cat for the mountain.
Yeah,
men.
but they didn't like those horses though. They said they were
they're
like
scrawny,
rough. They were in
yeah.
rough shape. Yeah. So to me, it sounded like they had a lot of their own.
Yeah. So, do you remember the names of the clans that they think it might be?
The
Two
Moon,
pretty funny.
Moon
Yeah,
Boys.
the
Moon Brothers.
No, not the Moon
Moon
Boys.
Brothers.
It's yeah,
Moon Brothers and, the
then-
Milk Snakes.
the Milk Snakes. Yeah.
So, like, Willis is trying to put his armor on. He's like, Merlion, come help me. But Merlion's like frozen with fear, like hiding behind this rock. And Jick's like, okay, I'll come help you. And Tyrion's like, you got to arm us. Like, you're literally going to have an extra person guard us and then have 3 of us not fight. You're losing 4 people. He's like, that's the difference between life and death sometimes. And he's right. If she doesn't arm Tyrion, she's dead.
A lot
Yeah.
of people
Oh,
are dead.
100%.
So what weapon does Tyrion get? And is this kind of like a throwback-
Double-sided battle axe.
Is this like a throwback to or like a call
Just
out
dwarf.
to dwarves having axes?
Yeah.
And my
might be.
axe.
Yeah.
You
Is
have
that a
my
Hobbit?
sword.
It's gotta be, right?
And
Is
my
that a Lord
bow.
of-
And
Lord of-
my axe. Yeah.
Is
it's
that a Lord of
Rings.
Ring?
Well, I
Yeah,
think like
that's
just like a thing. Like
Well, it's
dwarfs
it's
in
a-
fantasy in novels
never
have
watched it.
axes.
And that's why, like, at the same time, he's like, this is, like, so weird to me right now. It doesn't feel right in my hand.
Well, he's never
this
fought.
fucking
Like we
sucks.
find out after this is his first fight.
That's what I'm saying. Like, as a dwarf, he's like, oh, shit, this does not feel right.
It's like
At the
you're
same
chopping
time,
wood.
and then he still fucking kills it later on.
Yeah. So what's Tyrion's move when the battle's about to start?
He hides behind a
Hide.
rock with Merlin.
Let's go hide with
Marillion.
Merlion.
Yes, I'm Merlion.
Even when he starts fighting, he moves rock to rock.
That's a solid tactic. I do not fault him at all for that. Like, always use cover, man.
So hold on. One thing is when he finally gets Kat to agree to give him weapons, what does she say? What's her like condition?
You have to
He's gotta
drop
give
it
him
right
back,
when we're
yeah.
done.
Yeah.
And she's like, you have to give me
I put
your
it on
word.
my word as a Lannister, my honor as a Lannister.
And it says, my word. The hoofbeats were louder now. Tyrion grinned crookedly. Oh, that you have, my lady. My honor as a Lannister. Which is funny because when he says something about like, I swear on my honor, I didn't kill this person. Or I didn't
Oh,
try to
the
kill
honor of
Bran.
a
And she says,
Lannister.
oh, the honor of a Lannister. But it's funny because as soon as the fight's over, he drops the
drops it.
axe. I mean, he keeps a dirk in his belt.
yeah, I was gonna say he tried to keep it in. I think that was
I
the
think he
point of
dropped
dropping
it
the
more
axe.
of like
Yeah, like
I think
look,
he was
I'm-
tired.
I'm-
like
I'm
fuck,
so beat,
man,
yeah,
I almost
yeah.
died.
Oh, 100%. He wasn't thinking, like,
Imagine
I
how much
found
he's
this
bitching
cat.
about his cramped legs now. Oh, he does bitch about it.
He does, yeah.
So what happens when the battle first breaks off? When the charge happens, what happens?
So Tyrion hides behind the rock.
There's a
with
big ass
Merlion.
dude that Sir Roderick fights.
A lot of they start fucking everybody up. Like the clan
Well,
gets
it's-
wrecked.
the one thing I thought was
I mean,
funny.
Bronn is fucking people up.
Well, the one thing I thought was
Sir
funny
Roderick's
was
fighting
when
the
they-
shadow skin.
It says when they charge, Roderick yells like
Winterfell!
Winterfell!
Yeah.
And Willis yells Harrenhal, and Tyrion says like, for a moment I had the urge to like jump up and yell Casterly Rock. He's like, but that urge didn't last long, and then I hit
Yeah.
even lower behind the rock.
Yeah, it almost worked. Almost got him hyped.
But yeah, Roderick is fighting with the big dude, like seems to be their leader. Braun is like fucking people up. Chicken slices somebody across the face. Morik, the guy who is in Tyrion's service, but he said wasn't that good of a fighter, is like shooting bows at people.
Crossbow.
And what's Tyrion's first piece of action here?
Yeah,
Someone
actually,
rides.
a horse.
Shoving
Someone
Merlion
hops
away.
over
Like,
the
yo,
horse.
Merlion, fuck off, dude. Let me stomp on your hand real quick.
Well, yeah,
no.
so a
No,
horse.
he does that afterwards.
Yeah, a horse jumps over their rock and then
Yeah,
turns to
and
come and
They've
get
been
him.
found. Yeah, yeah.
And Tyrion just like axes this
Yeah,
fucking
the
horse in
horse,
the
yeah.
neck. And it,
Like the mountain, pretty much.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking, but from
Yeah,
underneath
yeah.
instead of up
Yeah,
above.
yeah, yeah.
The horse falls. The horse and the rider fall together, pinning
Marillion.
Marillion
and we
down.
find out he broke a couple ribs at the end of the chapter. We find out he broke some
Yeah.
ribs from that. and Tyrion axes the dude in the throat. So that's one kill for Tyrion. And then as Marillion's trying to like climb out and like get help from people, Tyrion stomps on his hand. We find out later that breaks 4 of his fingers
of his playing
Yeah,
of
hand.
his
it's pretty much
playing
just-
hand.
Yeah, he pretty much just tells him to shut the fuck up and stay
Play
there
dead.
and pretend you're dead.
Yeah,
Yeah,
play
exactly. So that's why he's stomping on him. Like, just stay the hell down.
I think
man.
he's also stomping on him because he didn't like him for some reason.
Well, yeah, because he seems
He
like
hated
an
it. He
asshat.
kept talking and singing songs about
Yeah.
how he was a dwarf and like rhyming about it.
Yeah, this guy's been an ass to me the whole time. And he kind of earlier he even says that he kind of blames Marillion for the whole thing. Like if the singer would have never said anything, he never would have saw Cat. None of this would have ever happened. So after he kills that first guy, he says like everything starts like to become a blur. It seems like they were fighting for a whole day, but like
The
barely any
moon,
Seems
time.
like
the
went
sun
by.
5
hasn't
minutes.
even moved.
But he says he sees Braun fighting with 2 swords at one point. He steals a helmet from a dying like clansman.
It's a little tight.
Jack was cut down. And then that's when he sees Catelyn screaming, or hears Catelyn screaming.
She's pinned against a rock by three. What are
Oh my
they?
shoots! I'm
3
so
mountain
scared.
brothers.
What do you think about this play? Like, is Tyrion a dumbass for saving Cat here?
No.
No,
No?
because if he doesn't save him, he might die too.
Why? If he doesn't save Cat, how does this affect his outcome at
They
all?
turn on him.
Who does?
I think
everyone
I think
else.
this
The
is
3 people that just killed her.
No, they have no idea where he is.
They might. They're gonna. It's not like they're just gonna stop fighting because they killed a woman.
Okay, well,
I
let's
think
say
it's
this.
going to be he
He
realizes
literally
there's
does
going to
take down 2 people and the other person runs.
there's
Well,
going
no,
to
she
be
takes
bigger
down one.
problems in the realm if that happens. So
Well,
like,
I think-
he's
Takes
thinking
down one of them because of him.
I think the only reason
And-
it maybe makes sense is because it seems like everyone in this party, like everyone with them, except for Cat, basically wants Tyrion dead here and now.
yeah, she's
Cat
been
wants to
standing
get
up
him
for
alive to the Eyrie. Like all the cell swords, like the fucking cell swords, the guys from Bracken, Williswood, they
Yeah,
all want this guy
where she's
dead.
telling him to shut up, and
Yeah.
let him talk, and So I think she respects him a little more than that. I don't know if she's ready to condemn him to death because she doesn't know the whole story yet. I think she's starting to understand that for sure. I think he knows he has a chance to explain that as well,
I think he.
and that's why
I think he
he's-
also has a slight respect at the same
Yeah,
time. He
yeah,
got
yeah, for
fucking
sure.
outsmarted by this chick. Like, why not become friends with her? Like, it seems like he is warming up to her a little bit.
I think he does it because he's like a nice dude, and you see a fucking woman getting fucking pinned in, you're gonna try and help her, right? I don't think he's
Yes.
thinking about the politics of it, but I think he's probably better off if she dies, right? If the people don't immediately decide to kill Tyrion for no reason, which I don't think they would, but who knows?
Well, you
but
just
if
said
they
they all
don't-
wanted him dead.
They do, but
that was literally the last thing
they
you just
do,
said.
but you have to realize like the repercussions of killing somebody like Tyrion, like he said, like Tywin takes no slights against his house, and maybe you can kill him and get away without anybody knowing you were the one responsible for it or whatever. But
We just say died in this battle.
yeah, I get that. But if he
The
kills
same
her,
battle that killed her
if
killed
he
him.
kills her, there's a
Done.
chance that like after the battle, especially if he helps save people, after the battle, there's a chance that they're just like, well, she's dead. I don't give a fuck what happens to you now. Like, let's all get the hell out of here. You know what I mean? There's a chance that happens. No?
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's a chance.
I feel like there's a better chance of that than them killing him. I don't know. Maybe it's 50-50.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I think he just saves her because he's a nice dude. Like I don't know. It's what
Well,
most
that
people
was like
would do
the
in
whole
that
point of him
situation.
getting the axe and everything. Yeah, I think it's probably just part of that.
I mean,
Like,
she gave him the axe. If she didn't give him the axe, he's dead from the guy on the horse.
Yeah,
You know,
True.
so it's kind of
payback,
like
a little bit of payback.
So how does Tyrion save her?
He comes flying in and axes the dude in the leg, right?
Yeah. And
yeah.
I remember when Braun first gives him the axe, he's like, I don't know how to use this. And he's like, just pretend you're chopping logs.
yeah, yeah.
And he says logs don't bleed.
Yeah,
And when he chops this guy's knee, he's like, logs that bleed.
yeah.
And so he kills the first one, but the second one, Cat comes up and cuts that guy's neck.
Daggers him, right? Yeah.
he slits
Nice
his
little
neck.
it's
red
fucking
smile.
dope.
So
And then, what guy on a horse is scared of a woman and a dwarf?
I don't know if
Like,
it's
what
that-
the fuck is this?
I don't know if it's that, but also immediately after that, he says that everyone there was either vanquished or vanished.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I think
that
they
guy
were all
keeps fighting
piecing
till he
out.
So if
dies.
everyone else is piecing out and this guy sees that, he's probably not hanging around either. So I think that
Yeah,
might
he
be
saw
what
the
it
fight
is.
was over. Yeah.
So after the fight's over, he goes in like talks to Braun a little bit as Braun's taking Jick's boots off his dead body, and he's like, "Is this your first battle?" And Tyrion's like, "Yeah, my father would be so proud." And Braun says, "You need a woman now." Braun said with a glint of black in his eyes. He shoved the boots into his saddlebag. "Nothing like a woman after a man's been bloodied. Take my word." Chicken stopped looting the corpse of the brigands long enough to snort and lick his lips. Tyrion glanced over to where Lady Stark was dressing Sir Roderick's wounds. "I'm willing if she is," he said. The Free Riders broke into laughter, and Tyrion grinned and thought, "There's a start." What's Tyrion mean there, Kyle?
What do you mean?
By
Like,
there's
he
a
means-
start.
Well, like this is the start of him like getting some respect and people like way out of this. He's gonna win people over. Maybe not Catelyn, but
So-
he's gonna win more and more people
And
over.
these two people who he's talking to right now, who are they? Braun and Chicken. They're not sworn to anybody. These are the two
yeah,
cell
they're free
swords.
riders. Yeah.
So cell swords, what is
They
that?
just want
What is
money.
that name of that sound? Right? Cell swords. You fucking sell your sword for money. Who's the richest person in this party? If I'm Tyrion and I'm trying to win anybody over, I'm trying to win over the people that I can be like, hey, help me out
Got some
here, and I'll
money.
pay you
I'll
more than
pay
she'll
you
pay you.
way
Exactly.
more. Yeah.
So I think that's what he means here. And this is when Tyrion finally like looks around at the battlefield and is like, yeah, we fucking won, but they don't have fucking weapons. It's like clubs and like a scythe. And even the guy who had a two-handed greatsword, it's like nicked and dented and rusted. He's like,
It's all shit.
they're all super skinny. Even the big man wasn't that big. The horses, you can all see their ribs. So he's like,
Yeah, this wasn't as tough a fight as it could have been.
well, I mean, it was still 29 versus like or 25 versus like a dozen, but yeah,
A
9
dozen
clans
trained warriors.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
with good shit.
I'm
9,
sure Roderick and Braun probably took down a dozen themselves.
yeah. Braun and Roderick both seem like goats, but Roderick gets hurt here. He gets a cut in his left arm, and he gets almost
Gash
a
in his
spear
neck,
through the
right?
neck. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking sweet.
So three people died. 2 of the Brackens, Mohor and Kurleket, and hit Tyrion's man Jick. So Cat is trying. What is Cat trying to argue after this fight?
Gotta bury him. Can't leave these brave men to die or to rot for the Ravens, right?
Willis is like, dude, you're
For the Shadow Cats.
Willis is like, you're crazy. Like we'll die. They're
No, I thought it was the Ravens. But the Shadow Cats eat them.
Ravens and Shadowcat. Well, yeah, both of them. And Willis is like, you're crazy. Like those guys aren't gone. They're just going to get reinforcements. They'll be back anytime. Like we got to go now. And Roderick's like, yeah, I got to agree. And Cat's still pushing for it. And Braun's like, dude, fuck that. Like you can do what you want. Pick up all the stones you want. Anyone who wants to live, you better come with me and Chicken. We'll be out of here. Like we're on the way out now.
So
So then
basically,
they
that's
realize
when
they got a piece.
Catelyn's like, yeah, I mean, all right, fine. I guess if you guys aren't going to do it, I fucking won't care about these graves for the dead. Even though she's still pissed about
Yeah,
it.
so she agrees to leave them, and as they're leaving, Laurie is like goes to take the dirk that Tyrion kept, and Cat's like, no, let him keep it and make sure he has that axe back. Like we might have need of it. And Tyrion says, "You have my thanks, my lady." And Catelyn says, "Save them. I trust you no more than I did before." And he's like, "I don't give a fuck if I have your trust as long as I have this axe."
Yeah, seriously.
And he's like, he thinks to himself like, man, my situation has greatly improved since from where it started. He's like, I started with a bag over my head, my hands bound. Now I'm riding by myself on my own horse with an axe slung over my shoulder.
And then he goes up to Merlin and calls him a bitch. Hey, you're a craven, you little pussy.
And then yeah, this is the last line is when Tyrion like says, before we were so rudely interrupted, there's a flaw in Littlefinger's tale. I never bet against my family.
Which makes sense. I mean, so I don't obviously know the whole story, but I obviously do know that both Littlefinger and Tyrion are kind of at least cunning. I was going to say liars, but we don't know that Tyrion's really a liar yet, but I feel like he has it in him if it benefits him.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those two people for sure that it's
At
hard
least
to
half
trust.
lies for Tyrion.
Yeah,
He said
yeah.
he told a half lie.
So
but...
hold on. If my question for you, Kyle, is if Littlefinger lied about this, do you believe Littlefinger's lying about this? About the dagger?
I don't know. I don't know what to believe.
If he is,
I don't believe that he's lying about this. I just can't trust that he's telling the truth about this. How's that?
Okay, but my thing is, what's Tyrion's first point? Not about the Littlefinger lying, about like why his first point about why he thinks that like it's stupid that he would.
Why would you give your own dagger to an assassin?
He says only a fool would do that. So one thing I think about Littlefinger is Littlefinger is not a fool. So even if Tyrion's lying about this, is it Littlefinger's dagger? Would Littlefinger be stupid enough to give somebody his own dagger unless he planned on pinning it on somebody else?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good point. I don't know the answer to that. That makes sense.
Nothing else, Kyle?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, in our wrap up, kind of. Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see what happens when they get to the Eyrie, because, especially now that I know that she's crazy, like anything can happen there.
Well, we know
Yeah, you guys ruined it by telling her he was
Yeah.
crazy. She was
she's
crazy.
kind of crazy,
Yeah,
and we already know she
tell me
hates.
spoilers all the time.
And we know she.
Wasn't me.
I
It
know.
wasn't
I'm
me.
just
It was
kidding.
Jeff.
I don't know
This
why
is
you get such a
bullshit.
bad rap. That's what I was calling out.
I told you
I was-
one fucking spoiler, and it was nothing. It was like about the wolves. Or
Mine was
something.
even less. It's just a personality trait.
Regardless of that, the one thing we know about her is she hates Lannisters, or she thinks Lannisters are responsible for her husband's death. Right?
Yeah,
Maybe not this Lannister, so maybe she doesn't harbor ill feelings against Tyrion, but she has some ill feeling against some Lannisters. So,
yeah.
um,
Well, and nobody likes Tyrion to begin with.
yeah,
It seems
people
like.
just like hate imps, so
Yeah.
hate dwarfs.
All right, Kyle, what was your feelings on the chapter overall?
It was good. It was kind of our first actual fight, so that was cool,
Like
right?
real life fight, yeah, not a tournament, not training with Jon.
People dying.
Yeah.
And Tyrion fucking murdered
And it's
3 people.
Tyrion being the first one
2
fighting
people.
and killing people.
He's like Yoda in the prequels, right? Bending the way shit.
It's kind of badass. He killed a horse too, so he has 3.
Okay, if we're counting the
3
horse,
tallies.
3 kills.
3 tallies.
I mean, him and the Mountain have a horse kill so far, right?
Yeah, I mean, the 2 most badass characters.
Yeah.
Well, no, the Mountain killed the 1 squire too, so the Mountain has a body count too.
That's
Okay.
true. Yeah, so I mean, but Tyrion has the most body count. Tyrion's beating the Mountain right now as far
Are
as
you
kills.
keeping a frag counter, Nelson? You should in your notes.
Okay,
Seriously.
I can do that.
So we got Direwolf has 1. Ned has a direwolf kill.
That,
Catelyn has 1. And then we got
What's Cat's
2
one?
for Tyrion.
Oh,
Cat
Cat
slit
killed
the guy's
the guy
throat.
here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Well, he
for-
killed that. The Mountain killed the
Yeah, he
knight.
killed-
Is that what you're
killed the
saying?
squire.
He killed a
Hugh-
knight or a
Hugh
squad.
the Veil and the
he was a
horse.
knight.
He was a knight.
Yeah.
He just got knighted. Get
yeah,
out of
he
here,
killed
Nelson.
a knight and a horse.
Yeah.
Does Jamie
And-
get half a
and-
kill for pushing Bran out the window?
And somebody killed
No.
John Aaron.
No.
Somebody killed Jon Arryn. Well, we find out. Well, Varys
Well, and,
tells
like, we
us
know,
who he
like-
thinks killed Jon Arryn.
Well,
We
we know
said-
about people killing stuff at this is me drawing a blank on what that old fight was now. When they took the throne, like, I mean, we know
Oh,
there
the
was some
Trident.
killing.
Landing. Or if we're
yeah,
counting the
Jamie.
Mountain bashing that kid's head
Yeah, the
against the wall and
Kingslayer,
raping
yeah, and all
killing.
that stuff. But I'd say we do the ones that are in our current story,
Okay.
I guess. Is what
Yeah.
All right, I'll have an updated
No,
frag
Ned
count.
has a kill too. He chopped the dude's head off.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're
Ned
right.
chopped
He
his
did.
head off.
Yeah.
Well, if we're
Shit,
counting,
How many kills
We're
do the
getting
White?
body counts
How many
left and
kills do the
right.
White Walkers
the
have?
White Walkers have a couple kills.
Have 2. They have 2.
All right, let's move on.
All right, that's
Get out of
it.
here, Jeff. Stop ruining our fun.
That's it for this
We're,
episode.
we're making the podcast fun.
All right, guys, thanks for listening. Subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Spotify, all that shit. Send us
Hey,
some comments.
Kyle,
We'll talk
you
about it
have
in the
a
next chapter.
wonderful night in the non-spoiler section, you nerd.
See you, Kyle.
Why don't you catch up a little bit?
Yeah, that's Nelson's friend told me to read faster. I think he missed the point of the podcast.
I don't think he understands that.
Yeah.
He's obviously not a listener.
Yeah.
All right,
So,
guys,
all
thanks
right.
for listening.
Yeah,
Have a good night.
thank
We'll
you.
see you in the spoiler section. Bye, Kyle.
Good night.
Bye,
Later.
Kyle.
Peace, Kyle.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
See you later, Kyle. It was great hanging out with you, man. We'll see you on the next episode, bud. And now to the spoiler section of Tyrion 4. Boys, what are your hot takes on the spoiler section here?
Real quick, I want to say something. Jeff was giving me a hard time. He said I'm giving Kyle
You
too much
are.
information.
Dude, yeah.
Have you heard of
Like,
spoon
I don't
feeding?
understand.
Here's the thing,
It's
like,
called
I-
spoon feeding.
I understand to a certain extent if we didn't give Kyle like a little bit of a nudge on some things, he'd have no fucking clue what was going on. Like probably the first time all of us read it. But the biggest spoiler is gonna be that Tyrion or that Peter was behind all of this shit. The killing of John, the killing of blah blah blah. Like I just don't want to put so much
So
light
what
on him
part?
right
What
now.
part was too much when I said the part where I was saying like if he didn't, he's like too smart to give
Just like
the.
all about like, oh, why is Peter lying about this? Like, why is he saying that? Like,
Well, the thing about the dagger is we still don't fucking know who sent the dagger.
right, but I just don't want to prod too much about Peter being the antagonist of this whole story.
He's not an antagonist. He's a hero. I love Littlefinger.
Not a hero.
He's
Also,
definitely
quick
not a
question:
hero.
Did Littlefinger take Catelyn's maidenhead?
No, it's Lysa.
Yeah.
Peter was drunk and Lysa sneaked in the bed. I remember the sex stories of this book like the back of my
Okay.
hand.
Okay.
If
All right.
anyone
just
you can
kidding.
trust on that, it's Jeff.
So the one thing I told you guys, I didn't even realize was in this chapter. I told you guys last chapter, which we recorded like 2 days ago, so you should remember.
I never
Told you
forget.
to keep an eye out. What did I tell you to keep an eye out for?
Bears having purple eyes.
Yes.
That
was me.
Has to do with weirwood trees.
Red smile.
red smiles.
They say it in
Catelyn
this
gave
chapter.
somebody. Catelyn gave somebody a red smile. I knew that.
Tyrion says you guys like.
But why are we looking out for red smiles? Just because of weirwood trees? It doesn't make sense.
People think it like has something. It relates to weirwood trees. I
They
don't
say
see
it
how
twice.
relates here.
Catelyn.
Not
They say
here.
when Catelyn gives doesn't they say Catelyn gives the guy a red smile? Or they
No,
No,
say she's
Tyrion
they
says
don't
you
say it at
could
that
give me a
point.
red smile, and he looks at Kurlekik and smiles or something like that.
Yeah,
Kurlekik.
Catelyn says like your death is your point, because he says like if I die, what's the point? And she's like maybe the point is your death, and he's like bullshit. You could have had me dead instantly. You could have had any of these schmucks give me a red smile. It's just I just want to keep an eye out for how often they say red smile when they could say slit your throat or cut your neck or something like that. Right?
One last word. If you think Nelson's saying too much about Peter Baelish and you know what goes on in the story, please leave a comment or tweet at us.
Yeah, and I'll tone it back. I'm trying to give Kyle stuff because I want him to be. I doubt
I
Kyle's
want
gonna
him to
reread
do
this-
better than us. I want to raise him better than we were.
Exactly.
But at the same time,
but I
not
want him to
spoon-feed
still
him.
have like if he didn't know Ned was gonna get his head chopped off, like I wouldn't want to be like, oh, Ned's really fucked up. Like, what's gonna happen to him? Like,
What about the fact that I point out anytime they mention somebody about Lannisters and I say that they have yellow hair and green eyes? Is that
Right.
getting him too much?
No,
Because
No,
you're
'cause
being
he's-
more subtle about it. This time you're literally just saying like, "Oh, what about Littlefinger here? Oh, what did he say
what about
there?"
Peter? What is he telling a
Oh,
lie? That's all I'm saying. Like, I just
Because
thought
it
you were.
doesn't make sense. Like you should think about it. It doesn't make sense what Littlefinger's doing here. Like even to me, it doesn't make sense. Why does Jeff? My question to you: why does Littlefinger, like I said to Kyle, why does Littlefinger lie about
He
this?
found it's definitely a flaw in his plan, but I don't know if Littlefinger planned on Catelyn running into Tyrion on her way back to Winterfell. He was just trying to plant that seed.
It's not
and
his
then-
dagger.
Yeah, but
It's not even
I
Littlefinger's
think
dagger,
he's
it's
right
Robert's
there
dagger.
though. He was trying to plant the seed. He didn't think he was gonna run into
It
Tyrion
doesn't
on
matter
the
if
way
it was his
back.
dagger or not. Like the what fucks up him saying that is that she ends up running into him, and now she's telling him that story.
And then
Now
just
the
so
one
happened,
person-
Renly said the same thing like in front of Ned. Like it
So-
was small
so-
chances of both of those happening, and they both happened.
Again, you guys know I do a lot more research. Like I look up the theories, and a lot of people are stumped. A lot of people, even in the theory world, are stumped by what Littlefinger is up to here. And the only thing that most people can come to is Littlefinger wants to create chaos in the realm. He wants to create chaos between the Lannisters and the Starks.
Because it seems
But
like
he
both of
doesn't wanna
those
do
are
it-
the most powerful. Because the Lannisters,
But he doesn't want to do it now. He doesn't want to do it like immediately when Cat shows up. So he doesn't want to pin it on Jaime or Cersei because they're there. And if he pins it on somebody who's there, Cat would confront them. He wants to pin it on someone who's not around, so that okay, that satisfies Cat. She'll get the fuck out of here, but nothing's gonna happen immediately.
Agreed.
Right? He has time to get his shit together. So he blames it on Tyrion because Tyrion's not there. And I think that's the most logical thing that makes sense. But
Sure. I mean, that makes sense to me too. I think the one flaw in his plan is saying that Tyrion won it off of that race and betting against his brother. He could have said they won it against a card game or a game of Shavas. They could have said anything else, but he said it against his brother. That's the flaw. But if there's no flaw in Peter's plan at all, then what's the story? Peter's going to get away with it, and he's going to be the king. You know what I mean?
I guess I don't know. I mean, it confuses me
I
still.
mean, either
like,
way,
enough-
it doesn't change the outcome. I mean,
Like, for as witty
Tyrion
as they
still
all
has
are,
a
everybody makes a mistake.
he has a trial by combat either way. Either way, Ned gets his head cut off, and like it doesn't change the timeline at all.
yeah, the only thing that happens if he doesn't blame it on Tyrion, Tyrion doesn't get captured right here. But I think Tyrion's like the best scapegoat Littlefinger has. Like maybe he says it was Servas or whatever, but it doesn't matter. Like Catelyn still doesn't believe him after Tyrion says this. She still thinks he's behind it. Right?
I don't know. I think Catelyn's the doubts in her head more than we know.
The doubts in her head, and like when she gets to Lysa and Lysa's being all like, kill him, kill him, kill him, she's like, no, he deserves a fair trial. Probably because she thinks that, yeah, maybe he didn't have anything to do with it because of this, but I don't know. It doesn't change much. So, again, I don't have much for the spoiler section here, but the one thing I have is who sent the dagger? Tyrion says it was no fool.
I know you think it's Joffrey.
Joffrey's like one of the biggest people. I don't know if I believe that. I don't know who sent it. Like I don't think Littlefinger had
I think
anything to do with
Joffrey
it.
makes sense.
Littlefinger was too far removed. I don't think he had anything to do with it. I think Joffrey makes the most sense probably, but even then I feel like it's kind of just like
Conjecture.
this storyline is completely dropped at the end of this book. Like nobody gives a fuck about the dagger anymore until like book 4 when Tyrion
But why
and
would
Cersei mention it.
Peter? Why would Peter say it was his dagger? That doesn't make much sense either.
Maybe he did own it at one point before he gave it to Robert or something, but yeah.
There's no way that anybody could prove. I mean, maybe they's like, oh,
I mean, I
he
guess the
wears
only
that
reason-
on his hip.
I guess the only reason he would say it's his dagger because then he would know, like if he says, "Oh, I think it was Robert's dagger," and then Robert won it in a fight, like or Tyrion won it from him in a bet, like maybe that holds less credibility than, "Oh, I know I lost it to Tyrion in this bet." Like maybe it's more credible.
You
if
just
it's
saw
like,
the
"Oh, it was
opportunity
mine."
and the only thing you could think of at the time.
Yeah.
Like literally at the same time.
on the spot.
On the spot,
Yeah.
he's like, "Oh shit, where'd this dagger come from? Oh, I owned
Yeah.
it." Like that's the only
Yeah.
thing he didn't know about. I guess he did hear about the dagger, but at the same time, it's tough.
Yeah, it's all like to Littlefinger. It's all happening like that. Like he hears about the dagger, he hears about this, he hears about that. He has to make something up on the spot. I don't know. It's one of the things that if I would like for someone to write in and tell us what they think. Who sent the dagger? Is it Joffrey? What is Littlefinger up to here? I don't have any idea what he's up to with the dagger plot. I know what he's up to with like the Jon Arryn plot, but the dagger plot, I'm not so sure.
So my little thing here is a little discussion action for Tyrion's outcome or Tyrion's future. So in the show, at one point Daenerys says Tyrion gets outsmarted by women left and right. Olenna and other people, they're just getting outsmarted. And Cersei, obviously. But right here, he is super pissed about being outsmarted by Catelyn. I feel like Tyrion's a guy who would be one to learn from his mistakes. Do you think he's going to continue to make these mistakes further down the line, and as it
When he
happened in the
becomes
show?
Daenerys' hand, if that happens.
Yeah, if he becomes Daenerys' hand, does he keep making all these military and stupid espionage mistakes?
I kind of agree with you in one point where Tyrion definitely isn't as witty, or kind of maybe gets blinded by women in ways he shouldn't. But I don't think I don't think Cat has anything to do with that, because I think about the people who like really tricked Tyrion, right?
His
He gets
whore?
tricked by Tysha. Remember who knows who Tysha is?
His first wife.
First wife. She turns out that she wasn't actually a whore, right? Jamie lied about her being a whore
Yeah.
because he was pissed. She wasn't a whore.
But
It
she
was
did
real.
take the money.
But after Tysha, like
The
he's
other
completely fooled. He's completely fooled that Shay is in love with him. She
Yeah.
is a whore. Everything she's saying is fake. She completely turns on him in the trial. She's doing everything she does for money.
But at the same
right?
time, could she be in love and feel slighted by him by his actions. Like a lot of the time, it seems like she actually is interested, and he
But
is
that's what she's
slighting
paid.
him,
That's like
or he
that's
is
what whores are
slighting
paid
her.
for, right? Whores are paid for, like, a good whore makes you forget she's a whore,
All right, I get that. That makes sense.
Same as like a
right?
stripper. Like, oh, like
But Tyrion's
I'll
weakness.
enjoy giving you this dance as much as you enjoy getting it.
I agree with Glow that Tyrion has a weakness for women, and he like doesn't think straight when he's dealing with women. But I don't think Kat falls in that category because it's not somebody he's attracted to. Normally, the women that like makes him not
So
think
I'm
straight.
not saying underestimating. I'm saying will he continue to be outwitted? It doesn't mean that he is underestimating. It means that he's getting outwitted.
One thing I want to tell. Okay, I wasn't gonna go down this road because I wasn't even thinking about it. But a lot of people think Penny. You guys know Penny?
Penny of Oldstone.
Yep.
Not Penny of Oldstone. What?
Penny the dwarf.
Penny the dwarf, the jousting dwarf, who he's with in Marine
Jenny
right
of
now.
Oldstone.
One of the things Penny is like, she always like when Tyrion says something like lewd or crude or like about sex, she gets like offended, right?
And
she
shy.
seems
yeah.
like she acts like super innocent around Tyrion.
Nobody's diddled her.
She's one of the jousting dwarfs at Joffrey's wedding.
Yeah,
They like literally like pretend to fuck each other. And you guys haven't read it yet, but in the Mercy chapter in Winds of Winter with Arya, think of the show where she's part of the acting crew.
Yeah.
There's a dwarf there, Babono. I don't know if his name's Babono. I think his name's Babono in the book too, but I think his name's Babono in the show. In the books, in the Mercy chapter, Arya plays Shay. That's her character, and Babono is Tyrion, and he has a big fake dick that like pops out in the middle of the act and everything. Like dwarfs, and Arya thinks to herself like how expensive a good mummer dwarf is, and like how they're always involved in like crude stuff because people think like dwarfs being like naked or dwarfs having sex is funny. So it's very unlikely that Penny is as innocent as she claims to be. But it's almost as if she's putting on an act because she knows Tyrion has a weakness for helpless girls, right? Let's think about the women who Tyrion has been attached to in his life. Tysha. When does he meet Tysha? She's getting raped on the road. Jaime runs off the rapers and he saves Tysha. Fucking Sansa. He marries Sansa and has like it's not like he hates Sansa. He like feels bad for Sansa. She's her brother just died when he has to marry her. Then we have Shay, who's always like, "Oh, you're my Lord of Lannister. You have to protect me. We're in fucking King's Landing. Everyone's gonna kill me." And a lot of it's on Tyrion's proactive about it. It's not like Shay's like being like, "Oh, I need help," but it's the same thing. Like she's in a bad situation. He has to protect her. Like it's almost like he likes being in that protective role. This is what a lot of theories say.
I mean,
and
a lot of the times in his life, he's been the imp or the person who can't do shit. So now he's like, "Oh, I'm saving these girls."
Exactly. So that's kind of what makes Tyrion not think straight. One of the things about Penny, though, do you remember how Penny got involved in Joffrey's wedding? I doubt you guys remember this.
Somebody was, I don't know, someone was looking for entertainment.
Yeah, I mean, probably
Joffrey. Littlefinger, who was not even in King's Landing during the wedding, sent them to Cersei, saying like, "Hey, you can like, this is the entertainment I'm providing for the wedding." Littlefinger does that on purpose because, and again, we'll get to this when we get to the Joffrey wedding stuff. I think
3 books from now.
I think Tyrion is the target of the assassination. Joffrey wasn't the target of the assassination, and there's a bunch of videos you can look up online about this, theories about this. Joffrey, when I'll cover it real quick because I love this theory. Who's the maester for Stannis in book 2? It's the prologue.
I forget his name. He's dead now.
Maester Crescent. What happens in that chapter?
He dies.
They burn him.
He tries to
drinks
give
poison
Melisandre the poison. He drinks the strangler out of the wine. As soon as he drinks it, he's like dead. Like he cannot get another word out after he drinks the wine. It's the same poison, the strangler. It's the same poison that Joffrey dies by. In the Joffrey chapter, he drinks his wine, says a bunch of stuff about Tyrion, and then takes a bite out of Tyrion's pigeon pie that has this like lemon cream sauce on it, and he can't get a word out afterwards. after he eats Tyrion's pie. So a lot of people think Tyrion was the target of the assassination, and Littlefinger sent these dwarfs in order to get Tyrion pissed off, right?
Yeah, but if
So
Tyrion got pissed off, he would probably. There's a higher chance of him leaving. Why would he stay around?
he tries to leave, and Joffrey doesn't let him.
Yeah, but I would just be careful to offend the guy that you're trying to keep around and kill with pigeon pie. You offend him early enough on, he could leave.
Also, if what cup is Joffrey drinking wine out of? Do you guys remember this?
It's a big like goblet, isn't it?
Huge goblet. Joffrey and one other person are drinking out of it. Marjorie. Who poisoned in the show? Who poisons Joffrey?
Lady Olenna.
Why the fuck would Olenna poison the cup of wine her granddaughter's drinking out of? Doesn't make any fucking sense.
I mean, really, in the show, they never say how she poisoned him.
Everyone thinks it's the wine.
Right.
Right?
But she never was like, oh, I poisoned his wine. She was like, no, I did it. Like, tell Cersei I did it.
We'll get to that later, and if anybody has any thoughts about the Joffrey death, leave them in the comments. We'll talk about him next chapter. But my point here is Penny originally came to King's Landing on Littlefinger's dime, and now all of a sudden she's chilling with Tyrion, pretending to be super innocent, even though she was in a mummer's act where she was literally pretending to have sex with people. Right? A lot of people think Penny is like. And the first time Tyrion meets Penny, what happens? Do you guys remember? He's in Volantis. Him and Jorah are meeting with like the queen of the waterfront or whatever her name is. She's like the one in charge of Volantis. And Penny comes running at him, like he's sitting in an alcove with Jorah and this woman, and Penny comes running at him with a dagger trying to kill him. And she says, oh, it's because my brother died because they thought he was you and they cut his head off and took him to Cersei for the reward. You're the reason my brother died. The first time we meet Penny, she's trying to kill Tyrion.
Yeah, but they're with each other for a long time after that, and she doesn't try.
Yeah,
Stockholm
that's true,
syndrome, dude. You know, you start to get affection for your captors, or vice versa. You know,
people think there's something up with Penny, and it's because Tyrion has a sweet spot for women, and mostly he loses sight of. He doesn't think straight when he thinks he's taking care of somebody. Tysha, Shay, Sansa, all that shit. So I kind of got off on a tangent there, but it was kind of off to what Glow said. I don't think it's all women. So I don't think Catelyn doesn't fall into this. Catelyn isn't an innocent woman.
but at the same time,
so
he underestimated her. So I think it is all women. He doesn't like even Cersei I'm saying in the show, he underestimates Cersei sometimes. He takes into the womanly account and thinks they're not going to do something because of the way they are. And I'm just saying, do you think it's because... Yeah, and obviously he does continue because, as you said, there's Tysha, there's Shay, there's Penny, possibly Sansa.
I want to say you're wrong, but the one thing that points to you being right about this is earlier in this chapter, before he finds out where they are, like during the flashback to him in the inn, when she says like, "Oh, we're going to Winterfell." Hold on, let me look it up. It's when Marsha Heedle, the innkeep, says, "Don't kill him here," and Tyrion says, "Don't kill him anywhere." Tyrion urged, "Take him somewhere else. No blood here, my lady. I want no high lordling squirrels." And Catelyn says, "We're taking him back to Winterfell," she said. And Tyrion thought, well, perhaps, right? That's that line. It's like
that's it. That's the end of it.
Well,
yeah, I don't know what you're trying to say here. Exactly, underestimate Sansa or.
Well, hold on. No, what I'm saying is when she says we're taking him back to Winterfell, and he says perhaps. At first, it's almost like at first he thinks that it might be a trick. Like maybe we're not going back to Winterfell, but then like he completely forgets about that, and he's completely stunned when they turn up on the high road. But here it says like. Literally, when she says we're going to Winterfell, he says,
I think he says perhaps because, like, perhaps we're going to make it there. We're probably going to get fucking hawked.
Yeah, you're right. That's why I think you're right, because the next line is, by then he had a moment to glance over the room and had a better idea of the situation. He was not altogether displeased with what he saw. The Stark woman had been clever, but no doubt about it, forced him to make a public affirmation of oaths, the successor, blah, blah, blah. But her plea had only roused a bare dozen. Others looked confused or frightened. maybe you're right, Chloe. Maybe it's that he just thought they wouldn't actually make it the whole way to Winterfell. I took that as saying like he thought that maybe they weren't going to Winterfell.
I don't understand how, with at least 2 days of ride, I understand it's a long trip, but Catelyn's not stupid either. Like she knows that people are going to be right after Tyrion the moment they leave the inn. They've got how much time ahead of them till the people that are coming from Lannister land actually come get them. Like they've got a huge head
Are you
start.
saying they could have
They
gone
have
to
a
Winterfell?
fortnight.
Yeah, they definitely could have made it to Winterfell before Lannister men caught up to them.
So here, I would agree with you if it was like, hey, we're leaving from the end of the crossroads. You can leave from Castle Rock and we'll race and we'll get there before you every time. That I agree with. The thing I don't agree with is maybe word gets to Tywin in a day. Say it takes 3 days by Raven.
Okay.
You don't think Tywin can send a letter to somebody up ahead of them?
In the north?
Maybe not even in the north. They're probably not out of the Riverlands for a while. They have to make it to Moat Caitlin. Maybe he sends, and even maybe fuck it, in the north. What if
Moat
he sends a letter
Caitlin's
to
in
the
north.
What if he sends a? I know Moat Caitlin's at the bottom of the north. I'm saying it probably takes like a week to get there at least. But even if it doesn't, if Tywin sends a letter to the Boltons saying, "Hey, this bitch did this. I'll give you this much money if you help me."
With Ned being alive, I highly doubt that.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's the thing, though. I think that's what Catelyn would be afraid of.
I don't know. I mean, Ned's the key here. Nobody gives a shit about Catelyn. Everybody
There's another
respects
thing.
Ned.
So hold on. There's a part where in Storm of Swords when Robb has Jaime captured, and I don't remember the exact phrase, but Jaime says something like, why won't you carry me from camp to camp to camp? Why don't you leave me at some castle with one of your bannermen?" And he's like, "Don't you trust them?" He's like, "I trust them with my life. I don't trust them with your life." Right? That's the thing. It's like I trust them to defend me, but I don't trust them that they're not going to take a bribe from your dad.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
That's what Robb said. And again, maybe Ned being alive is a different thing, but I don't think it's that different than
that makes a lot
this
of sense.
Situation.
But there's no doubt in my mind that they get the Winterfell first. Even if they call the Boltons, how far is that fucking ride?
He said
that's
one
a far
day
fucking ride.
They would hawk him. It doesn't make sense to me.
No, Tyrion doesn't say they'd be hawked in one day. He says within one day someone would be after them.
From how Tyrion said it, they're coming from either Castle Rock or whatever the west is called, or just like someone from the south, or like someone that just wants to get a lot of money. Like they got to go get reinforcements.
I only had one other thing. I don't think it's going to be long. Marillion. We know what happens in Marillion.
Yeah, there's nothing special here.
Nothing special about him.
Gets tossed from the moon door.
Gets taught. No, he doesn't.
What?
This is something that you mentioned in one of the other ones. Marillion does not get tossed from the moon door. He hangs around. They keep him in the sky cells, and he's the scapegoat. Like Littlefinger tortures the fuck out of him. The only reason I want to bring this up is because you said something in one of the previous podcasts about him getting tossed out the moon door when I
thought he did get tossed out the moon door.
No, he gets blamed for tossing Lysa out the moon door. And then they keep him around, and Littlefinger tortures the fuck out of him to the point where when the Lord Declarant come up,
right.
He gets him to confess to them, "Oh yeah, I pushed her out the moon door." That was the one thing I wanted to clear up, just because in the last chapter, or the last Catelyn chapter, I remember when I was editing, I remember hearing you say that, and I wanted to clear it up. But yep, that's all I got. Not much spoiler stuff in this one. We kind of went off on a couple weird tangents. Send us some comments if you guys have anything you want us to talk about. We're getting into the thick of this book. I like seeing some of Kyle's reactions for some of this stuff. Even though Kyle is the most expressive guy, it's still kind of cool seeing what he thinks when we find out stuff like that. It actually wasn't Tyrion's dagger, and it's weird because one thing is weird is the entire time we've been doing this podcast, Kyle keeps saying, "I don't think Littlefinger had anything to do with it. I don't think Littlefinger had anything to do with it." And then when we get to this, and I'm like, "So now do you think Littlefinger?" Or he says, "I don't think Tyrion had anything to do with it. I don't think Tyrion had anything to do with it." When we get to this, I'm like, "So now you don't think Tyrion had anything to do with it?" He's like, "I'm not sure." Like now that there's actual proof that Tyrion didn't have anything to do with it.
Well, it's
he's
the
like,
same
"Ah,
thing
I
that
don't know."
happened with what the
He has
Hound
no idea
told-
he has no idea what to think.
It's the same thing. What the Hound told. Who's the Hound talking to?
Sansa. He thought the
Sansa.
Mountain wasn't a bad guy.
So everything he takes in with a grain of salt.
And
It
we told him
seems
there's a
like.
lot of unreliable narrators, which is true.
Yeah, but not right now. Sometimes there are reliable narrators.
All right, so next chapter, we probably will get kind of deep into spoiler sections.
Oh boy.
I've said this before,
This is Arya
and
time.
I think I'm right. It's Arya time. It's Arya and the
Illyrio and Varys.
Dragon Skulls. Yep. Not a super long chapter.
Spoiler.
But it's a good one. Alright, so we got Arya next, and it's going to be a hype one. Going to be excited to see you guys on the next episode. Big discussion time.
I don't think Kyle's gonna know a thing of what's going on down there.
And if you give anything
If
away,
Nelson will
you.
give it away. That's the
Come
not
on,
gonna
dude,
give
it's
shit away.
Illyrio. Figure it out, dude. It's Littlefinger telling Illyrio what to do.
We've only had 3. Think about this. We've only had 3 Dany chapters. When are we gonna start getting more Dany? We're halfway through the book
Dude,
now.
every time we bring up Daenerys, I miss Emilia Clarke that much more.
This is this.
I
this
need her to
chapter
be
is
in a
chapter
movie or
32,
something.
or 31, I think. Maybe 32, and there's 72 in the book. We're halfway through, and we only have 3 Dany chapters.
I didn't
She
know
hasn't even
that.
met Mary Maz Door. We're gonna start getting a lot more Dany, I think, as we go.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Night is
Drop a
dark
like,
and
drop
full
a
of
subscribe.
terrors.
Leave a comment if you want us to talk about something.
I'm in if she is.
Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye now.